Welcome to the Prepped and Polished podcast, the podcast that empowers you to take control of your education, featuring weekly interviews with influencers in the world of education, as well as tutoring tips, lessons, and updates. And now, here's your host, Alexis Avila.
And welcome back to the Prepped and Polished podcast. This is Alexis Avila, your host, and this is episode 136. Make sure to join our community. You can find us on SoundCloud and iTunes. It's a What's Hot K through 12 podcast in iTunes. And you can find us on SoundCloud, iTunes, Facebook, Twitter, Google+, Instagram, and YouTube. We put the podcast on YouTube as well, so you can watch them. Just type Prepped and Polished and you'll find us. And you can go to our site, preppedandpolished.com, and while you're there, sign up for our free monthly newsletter. Have a question or reaction during or after this podcast, please submit to radio@preppedandpolished.com. Let's get to today's guest. Today, I'm talking to teen expert Louise Palanker. And Louise Palanker is an LA-based writer, producer, performer, filmmaker, and author and host of Journals, a podcast and iTunes app where she fields questions from teens about growing up and allows kids to safely connect with one another. With her Journals community, teens and tweens all over the world are joining the conversation, creating their own profiles, and collectively building a safe space to read, write, learn, share, encourage, interact, and give and get advice. On today's episode, Louise talks about some of the problems today's teens face and really shares some of the amazing ways that she helps teens thrive in today's society. So get ready to have a great time. Louise is hysterical and extremely knowledgeable about what teens really go through. So get ready. You're going to learn a lot. Let's get to today's guest. This is episode 136 with Louise Palanker. Louise, thanks for coming on the Prepped and Polished podcast. How are you today?
I'm excellent. How are you?
Doing well, thanks. Can you
Is your name Alexis?
Alexis, yeah.
Okay, so you go by Alex or Alexi or just Alexis?
I'll take either one. It's fine, but Alexis is like the long name. And how do you pronounce your last name? I know that
Palanker.
So a lot of people mess that up, I'm sure.
They do, but if you just think of Paul Anka, it's helpful.
All right. So can you share with us your background and focus on a few pivotal moments that led you to where you are today as a teen expert and advocate?
I think I was always that person that was helping younger kids, and because I noticed at a young age, like when I was 12, I noticed that if you actually spoke to an 8-year-old, they kind of worshipped you, and I didn't get why. And this one kid was just staring at me, and I said, "Why are you staring at me?" And she said, "I like you." I was like, "Oh, because I spoke to you and made eye contact." So I don't know. I guess it was because I have a brother who's 4 years younger, and I guess maybe I never said this out loud before, but maybe that was my relationship with him. That he was kind of bullied, and I was just his protector. So, and I think my dad was really good at talking to me about things that were bothering me, and that's just always how I've been. So I did go into entertainment, and I went into radio, and now I'm just kind of combining my skill sets, which I think everybody needs to do. We're all good at more than one thing, and if you can combine your skill sets, then you're really kind of maximizing your potential in the world.
And you can definitely see that in your website. So I was wondering if you could tell us about your website, Louise Palanker.com. Palanker.
Yep. Accent in the middle, like Obama.
Ah. Okay.
And Sinatra.
Now, what won't we find there? Because there's so many interesting things going on.
You won't find any posts by Obama. He's not there.
Okay.
I'd love it, but he hasn't come by. So what won't we find?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I thought when I saw your website.
I can't cook. I don't garden. I'm not like, I don't have any, I don't set a nice table. Like I'll put the bagels down in the bag they came in. The orange juice is still in the carton. I'm not Martha Stewart.
All right. Well, what will we find there?
On my website, it's kind of like a combination of all the stuff that I'm doing with journals, which is my project for teens, and then a lot about the documentary I made, which is called Family Band, The Cow Sales Story, which is a documentary about the cow sales, who were a family band in the 60s. And you might find some blogging where I'm just kind of talking about something that happened to me. But mostly it's like, I think our website should be a place where we aggregate, because most of what we post, you, me, and everyone, most of what we post is on social media. So websites don't get updated as often, because if your website is, say, on WordPress or something, you kind of go, oh, I should update my website, and then your eyes roll back in your head and you make another Twitter post, right? So your website should lead people to where you are on social media, because most websites are not that up to date, I find, because they're overwhelming.
So you update your website a lot?
No, I don't.
You don't update your website?
I should. But I have, like, for example, I have a weekly column, a weekly syndicated column called Ask Wheezy, where I'm answering like Dear Abby style letters from teenagers. And there was a time where I would like post, the beginning question and then a link to the News Hawk where the rest of it, they would, I was like very thorough about that, but then it just became like, so there's a way to do an RSS feed where it will do that automatically. So that's like my next project, because we have that on the Journals Network website, because I hired a webmaster, and then she kind of programmed where there'd be an RSS feed where it would automatically update the column every time it's published on Newshawk. So I need to do that with my website, because I'm just not that good at going to my website and making posts every week.
Okay, gotcha.
Are you?
I'm okay at it.
How often do you do your podcast?
It's a weekly podcast.
So you have to post that, right?
Got to post that, yeah.
See, because when I post stuff, it's always to Journals Network. So I have to post to Journals Network, and then I have to also post to Louise Palanker. So it's just a lot.
Well, I found your website helpful when I found it.
Okay, that was good. So it's feeling current to you.
It is.
All right, that's great.
Now, on your website, I see a common project. It's called Our Place. And can you tell us about your teen community, Our Place? How and when did you start with the idea of creating a safe haven for teens, and where have you taken it?
So you just told me that my website is not up to date, because Our Place is now Journals. Yeah. Sorry, I have CNN on. Let me turn it. So we rebranded Our Place as Journals. So it should say Journals, but maybe I would have to go through post by post and change it. And I'm okay with the legacy of having been Our Place. So I don't really think I need to do that. But yeah, we were Journals initially because I had written a semi-autobiographical novel about my growing up called Journals. And then when that became an app, which is a social network for teens and a podcast and all this other stuff, you can download the app for free in the iTunes App Store. It became more of a social network, and so I was encouraged to change the name to something that sounded more like a social network. So we changed it to Our Place, and then we decided to just change it back to Journals. That would be a cooler name moving forward. So yeah, so
and
to answer,
Journals is a safe haven for teens, and
yes,
it's a teen community that you've created.
Yes.
Where are you guys now? What kinds of cool stuff are you doing with that?
So we have an app. You can go to the iTunes App Store and download the app, and kids can journal every day. They can share their journal entries with each other. They can ask each other questions. It's a safe place where if you go on there and you say, I'm having trouble with my parents, or I think I may be gay, nobody's going to make fun of you, or everyone's going to be supportive. And the climate there is encouragement for supportiveness. So if somebody comes in, like there's like some loose hair in there saying something about how, it's not okay to be this way, other people will know that they can step forward and be the person that stands up to the bully, because most of the population is standing up to bullies. So it's really
Wow.
they kind of like come in very naturally on their own, and they just say, we don't even, it's like important to me that when they correct or when they, sort of make a statement in defense of somebody, that they do it respectfully. So it's really not even okay to bully the bully,
Ah.
because that's how bullying starts, really, is someone's been bullied. So they have to just say, that's not how we speak to each other in this place. And I'll give people second and third chances, but if they're just in there to tip over tables, I'll block their account. So we really kind of just keep an atmosphere where if you need to say that your dad's an alcoholic, or if you need to say that you believe that you're, transgender, or if you need to say that you went too far with a boy and that you're worried that you may be pregnant, you get to say that, because everyone's going to be supportive, first and foremost.
That's amazing.
So that's what Journals is. And then we have a weekly podcast. It's a video podcast where we have a panel of teenagers, and I host it, and we field questions coming in on the phone or coming in via texting or coming in that have already come into the app. And we kind of, the panel sort of weighs in like political pundits, but they weigh in on someone's issue.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
So you're definitely, like, you talk to teens. You're current. What are some of the struggles you find teens face today versus some of the issues like they faced like in the 80s, 90s? Different time back then. So.
Right. Well, I mean, I think they have more distractions. I think they have more ways of, having their social needs met immediately, which is maybe not the best long-term solution to becoming socially mature. So they have to resist the temptation to just have what I call the constant conversation, because they can be connected immediately to something that will soothe them, but it may not be what they need to build really powerful relationships that nurture them and help them kind of self-soothe. So they're also like, they're not as eager to get their driver's license because they're getting a lot of their needs met online.
Wow.
So they can be, a parent can say, oh, well, play date. You're not getting on your bike and riding around anywhere. I need to know where you are. And maybe what the parent doesn't know is that she may be right over there on the couch talking to some dangerous person. So I just think everything has shifted to where we have this sort of perceived safety. And the kids are always a few steps ahead of the parents in terms of what they're doing with their devices. But I don't know that they're actually safer than they were in the 80s when we just got on our bikes and rode down the street and found some friends. I still think that they need to learn how to navigate in the real world. And when they feel that something might be wrong, they need to trust that instinct. They need to stand up for what they believe in, and they need to learn everything that we learned just by doing. I think parents are protecting kids from a lot of that and saying, because the parent wants to feel safe, so the parent says, no, you can't go there. But they need to go there while they're still living under the roof of the parent so that they can come home and say, oh, things went horribly wrong and I need to talk to you guys about it because this person did this to me or this person did that to me. So I think people feel like everything is very, very, very different. But the thing that really doesn't change is the biology of human beings. So when you're 14, you're still 14. I don't think it's that different other than, we watch TV and they want to know, where's the Wi-Fi, Dad? I can't exist in this cabin. There's no Wi-Fi. We're still impulsive. We're still very quick to react when we're 14. We're not that thoughtful. We just react. But I think parents need to just keep in mind that it's the same as it was for you. It's just very, very raw to be 14, 15, 16. And I think parents kind of callous over. So they don't exactly remember what it felt like to be that age, because otherwise, how could you raise a child?
Yeah.
You'd just be like an open wound all the time. But
Right.
yeah, what was the beginning of your question? Because
Well,
I think
it was just you answered it, but I just wanted to know some of the differences you see in today's teens versus
I really think the only difference is the media shifts.
media.
And so we need to shift accordingly and know that kids are going to get their needs met in different ways, but they're still the exact same kid that you were when you were that age. It's not that different, and you just need to be aware of what you would have done. I guess maybe the best thing to do is to say, hey, if I had had an iPhone, what would I have done with it? And your kids doing that.
Yeah, that's really good. Now, what about parents? So, the parents listening to us today, what are some ways they can help their teen learn to thrive better so they get through high school in one piece, and also feel good about themselves going into young adulthood?
I think maybe give them a little space to get hurt, and then an open kind of like cushion to come and say, I feel hurt. You can't do everything and fix everything for them. They need to feel the result or the consequences of their actions. I think it's easy to just say, I just don't want her to ever have to experience that, but she's going to experience it when she goes to college. And so give them like a little bit of freedom to feel the results of their actions, and then an open attitude so that they'll come to you and talk about it so that you can open up a conversation. If nothing ever goes wrong, you get 18 years with this person. Like, let her know that she can come to you, and the expression on your face isn't just complete and total judgment.
Right.
You're sending messages to your kids all the time, just with your posture and with everything, and they're not going to talk to you if they feel like your reaction is perceived as judgment. Right. Now, your reaction may actually be horror and guilt that you're the reason why she's feeling badly. Kids don't realize how many layers there are to all this. They just think, oh, I'm being judged. Actually, a lot of times the parents are judging themselves.
Right.
And it's getting spun and then coming out as like, how could you do that? Because what they're really saying is, how could I have raised a person who would do that? And kids don't see all those layers. So kind of try to keep like an open and approachable face, and just listen and be like, oh, I know that must really hurt. Because she'll tell you just much more if she doesn't feel like you're taking it so Sorry, I'm getting a phone call from my sister.
Oh, yeah.
One second.
Well, put her on the podcast.
Aim?
Hey, Louise.
Hi, I'm on a podcast right now.
Okay, so why did you answer the phone?
So I didn't know if it was an emergency.
No, it's not an emergency.
All right.
Call me when you're done.
Are you telling me where we're going tonight?
Yeah, I think I'm just going to order it at my house.
All right. Say hi to Alexis.
Hi.
Alexis.
Good to hear from you.
All right, Am. I'll call you when I'm done with this.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
Love you. Bye-bye. All right. I just didn't know if that was an emergency.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I just think that you have to kind of, when you go to a friend with a problem, they're just going to listen and maybe give you their just kind of like less partial feedback. When you go to a parent, it's just very hard for your parents to be impartial, because they're going to feel like everything you're telling them that might not be the best thing is somehow their fault. But they can't show you that card because they're your parent. So I just think the way to learn more about what your child is thinking is to be less personally wounded by everything they say to you.
Right. So you're saying that parents should, if you have issues as an adult, and you're going to be a parent, really work on them, or really work on yourself.
Yeah, and also maybe like tell your kids like stories. Like maybe they'll be like an eye roll over this, but like, you know, when I was 14, I had my first crush, and let your kids see that you are a human that was once a teenager, that was once a child, and also let them know, like, when you watch other kids, just instead of saying, don't say things like, you know, well, she's a tramp or he's an idiot. Just talk more about the behavior. Like, look at other kids and be like, I don't know if he should be talking to his dad that way. I remember my parents would point out, if kids would sass their parents, they would point out that they just thought that was disrespectful. And I still believe that's true. Like, they told it to me in a way that wasn't just so judgmental, or was like saying this is a horrible person, but just like this behavior isn't maybe the best. And so you help your child develop a point of view about the way people behave by bringing them in to your circle and like including them. Maybe even in the way adults behave. Like, just like when Uncle John said that to you, like, I don't think that was cool. I didn't like the way he spoke to you. I've got your back on this. Or, you know, just let them know that you're in their corner in ways where you respect their opinion. Like, ask your kid how they thought something went, or, you know, ask your kid their opinion about how someone was behaving. And awesome. Ask them, like, even if it's like two adults that are dating or something, just say, like, do you think they're good together? Do you like the way they work together? Just let your kid know that you care about their opinions and their views.
Okay, so I want to ask you a Hollywood question, because you're involved with Hollywood. You've interviewed some of the biggest celebrities in the world, and make documentaries. And we deal with kids here. So is making it as an actor, I'm just curious myself, but is making it as an actor harder or easier than it used to be 20 years ago? And for any teens thinking about getting into acting or the arts, do you say go for your dream or pick something else?
I always tell kids to go for their dream, because when you're a child, there's absolutely no reason not to just dream big. Dream big. You have to start getting realistic in college. If it looks like, you know, I'm not the best flute player, and that, you know, there's other players that are more talented, then you have to start thinking about law school or what have you. But when you're 15 and you just want to sing, and your dad is playing, you know, your dad is saying, no, you're going to be a doctor. You can say to him, well, would you want to go to a doctor who didn't really want to be a doctor? Yeah. So I just tell them to dream big, and then you have to, like, it's like, this is life when you're 6. And as you get a little bit older, you know, you figure out where are my strengths, and you get a little bit more focused, because there's not every kid who wants to be an actor is going to be an actor. And that becomes more and more abundantly clear as you get to be 17, 18, 19. You know, if you're not getting the lead in the high school musical by senior year, maybe you're not going to be an actor as a career. But there's like 1,000 other careers in show business that you could do if this is your passion. So you don't have to be the performer to be involved. There's so many different ways to be involved. And so that's what I tell kids.
That's awesome.
Never give up on your dream, just fine tune it.
That's awesome. You want to tell us a little bit about your Charitable Foundation? I read about you've been giving to children's causes quite some time.
Yeah, I think people, one thing for people to understand if they're in nonprofit at all is that money follows passion. And so if you have a charitable fund, it's going to, you know, my money just sits in an account and it makes money. And then the money that it makes, that goes to the causes. So the causes that are closest to my heart are Boys and Girls Clubs. And I have Boys and Girls Clubs in my area that I donate money to every year. So mine is just it's not a nonprofit where I can just decide to give you money. It's a nonprofit where I have to give the money to certified charity. So you find one that you know does good things, and I teach classes at Boys and Girls Club. I teach stand-up comedy to kids. And so that's where I like to donate my money, is where I personally know the people. And if there's a disaster, like I'll give money to the Red Cross if there's in some place in the on planet Earth where money is needed. I'll give money there as well. So that's where I try to focus. Is everybody has that? Some people love pets, and some people love animals, and some people love older people, and some people are personally affected by a disease, and so they want to help. But I think you'll find that people tend to donate where they're personally, emotionally connected.
Absolutely.
And so that's what I do.
And what types of projects are you working on now?
So right now I'm really focused on the journals project, and because we have the app development is very expensive. We want the app to be a good experience for kids. And then we do the weekly podcast, which is a video podcast, which you can find on our YouTube channel or in the iTunes apps, or the iTunes, where you find podcasts in iTunes, Stitcher. We just got it up on.
SoundCloud. I saw you on SoundCloud.
Well, SoundCloud is where I put my own music.
Okay.
And my my celebrity interviews I put on SoundCloud, but I don't have that. I don't think we have our podcast on SoundCloud yet, but we just got it on Google Play. There's so many different places to put a podcast, so I have to figure out where.
I didn't know about Google Play.
That was the latest one. I listen to a lot of podcasts, and so they've been saying lately, like, "Oh, you can find us on Google Play." So, I went to our webmaster and I was like, "Can we be up on Google Play?" And he made that happen. So. Every time you put it in a different platform, it's like more work that week. So you just have to figure out where you want to be.
I was wondering, what do you love most about what you do?
I think I love making somebody feel better. As many times a day as you can do that as you walk through your world. If you can just smile at somebody and make them feel better, that's just a great contribution to the planet. But, since I'm a good communicator and I'm good at problem solving, and I try to be supportive, if I can speak to a young person in a way that no one else has been able to speak to her or him, then I love doing that, because I'll just answer the question, and I answer probably about 10 questions a day from kids. And if they read that and it gives them some comfort, that makes me really happy. And I'm also a really creative person, so I love to make films and make and take photographs. And I guess it's just gratifying to be creative and to share your voice in ways that resonate with other people. So I enjoy that as well.
Great. And how do we best get in touch with you?
So I'm on Facebook and Twitter, and I'm just Louise Palanker on Facebook and Twitter. I'm on Instagram as Louise Palanker. And then we're Journals Network across the board. In terms of the Journals Project, it's just Journals Network everywhere. And you can write to journalsnetwork@gmail.com if you want to email. And just reach out. I'm open to meeting all kinds of people on Facebook and Twitter.
Awesome. And last, teenage years is an often, overwhelming, daunting time in one's life. So any teens listening to us today, looking for some words of wisdom, what do you have for them?
I would say everything's going to be okay. I mean, I think that's the main thing that people want to know. And when you're a teenager, you're very close to the surface of the earth. And all you can really see is that perspective. As you turn around, you don't see very much. You see those people who are immediately in your view. You're only ever where someone else has placed you. And that's your 360, 24/7. And as you get to be 18, 19, you start to sort of levitate off the face of the earth, and you get to, I think I might go over here now, and I might go over here now, and I just met all these really cool people, and so tomorrow night I'm going to meet them over here. And those are the people with whom you're going to probably better identify than the people that just happen to be geographically close to where your parents have placed you. So just know that in a couple of moments, you're going to see this horizon shift and you're going to find your people. It just may not feel like that's ever going to happen. I remember when I was a kid, if someone said, when you're 18, it was almost to my ears the same as them saying, when you're 100. Right. It just felt like forever away. Yeah. And it's not as far as it seems. You're going to get there, and all of a sudden you're going to have all these options. And you're going to, as your parents have been teaching you, you're going to make good choices, and you're going to find your people, and you're going to really feel a connection that you don't currently feel. And so just hang in there, work on yourself, work on being a very interesting person. And interesting people are people who are interested in lots of people and lots of things. So develop your skill set, develop your interest in what other people have to offer, be a great listener, and then just get ready for that helicopter to start hovering. And you're going to see there's all kinds of amazing places for you to go.
And this wraps up our show today. This was episode number 136 with teen expert Louise Palanker. To connect with Louise, check out her website, www.louisepalanker.com. I'm going to spell it. It's LouisePalanker.com. I hope you enjoyed episode 136 with Louise Palanker. For another related conversation, go back and check out podcast number 90 with Annie Fox on effective parenting in the 21st century. That's preppedandpolished.com/Annie-Fox-effective-parenting. Tune in soon to hear our next podcast episode. It'll be 137, our next tutoring tips episode. To access today's episode 136 with Louise Palanker and all of our podcast episodes, head over to preppedandpolished.com/podcast. Thank you for joining us on the Prepped and Polished podcast. Now go out there and take control of your education.
You've been listening to the Prepped and Polished podcast. For more information, check out preppedandpolished.com. Also, you can follow us on Facebook and Twitter. Thanks for listening. Class dismissed.